today we wanted to talk to you guys about insulin resistance. Not sure how many people really understand or know what insulin resistance is, but it is the common denominator in my practice. It's one of those things that took me a while, a few years into my practice, to realize how many of my clients actually do experience insulin resistance and how it can really hinder them from getting to their goal. So I think Kate can probably give a much better understanding of what insulin resistance is and how do we look for it in patients.
Yeah, I see a lot of it too. So would you want to talk a little bit about, like, you want me to talk about what it is and kind of how to look for it, how to know if you have it, that kind of stuff, you think?
Yeah, unless you want me to use my my super layman version explanation of blood sugar and insulin.
Well, yeah, no, I definitely want, I think that's a good, I liked what you did there. I like how you explain it. But so, I mean, I can talk a little bit about the science. I don't want to get too sciencey because it's boring, but.
And then I'll do my silly presentation.
Yeah, I like your presentation. It makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
To me, it does.
Thank you.
So insulin it's a hormone that our bodies make. Our pancreas makes it. And the main job is to, I guess, manage how our body uses glucose or sugar for energy. And so, as you said, a lot of your clients, mine as well, like when they have insulin resistance, when you have it, it just means that your body is not able to properly convert the food that you eat into energy. So, you know, and what I want people to know, what I tell my clients is that you don't have to be overweight to be insulin resistant. Even if your weight's perfectly normal, you can still suffer from insulin resistance. So it can be something that's like that you're not really sure you have it, but you're doing all the things, like I say, to try to lose weight and it just won't come off. I think I read that insulin resistance is actually the leading cause of a slow metabolism, and it can affect us when we're aging, especially. You know, our metabolism, it seems like when you turn 40, your metabolism just quits.
Right, quits, over.
Yeah, like it just happens overnight. But there are actually some triggers, in addition to aging, of course, that can cause insulin resistance. So, you know, mention the aging process, of course, but menopause can trigger it, genetics, medication. There's actually some medication that can trigger insulin resistance, and nutrient or nutritional deficiencies can also cause it. And so, you know, the reason why we wanted to address this today is because, you know, it makes weight loss really difficult. But it also actually makes a difference in those lovely, I'll call them menopause symptoms, like hot flashes and night sweats. It can make them worse, but it causes your body to store sugar as fat and makes weight loss nearly impossible. So, you know, and then if you don't do anything about it, so either you don't know that you have it or you ignore it, it can cause really serious health issues if you let it go, like type 2 diabetes, heart disease. It's been linked to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, thyroid problems, liver issues, breast cancer, actually lots of different kinds of cancer, and it's been linked to Alzheimer's. So it can get really serious if you don't do something about it. So I guess just a few things to notice about yourself that could maybe point you in the direction of possibly having insulin resistance would be like that excess belly fat. I call it the muffin top that just won't go away. If you have really high sugar cravings, like relentless sugar cravings all the time, that's a sign of potential insulin resistance. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, aches and pains like joint pain. If you're always feeling hungry, even though you just ate, you're still feeling hungry really fast. Those are some signs that you can be dealing with insulin resistance.
Right. Good. I think too that I like the way we have these discussions, and one of the reasons is because I feel like we both give our own take on each, you know, disease process or, you know, symptom. We each have our kind of own way of explaining it, and this stuff is kind of technical, and so you guys kind of hear it, and sometimes it just, you know, you have to hear it more than once. So I'm going to kind of reiterate too the way that I get those patients and the way that it appears to me. So I have plenty of patients. I hate to say a lot of them are women over the age of 40. Like that's pretty much where I see the most insulin resistance. I experienced it myself, actually. I had a stone when I was pregnant stuck somewhere in my pancreas.
Oh, wow.
And it killed off a piece of my pancreas and took with it some of my exocrine function.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so it could come from a lot of crazy different places. So I experience insulin resistance hard, and it sucks. So the patients that come in and they're like, oh my God, I'm stuck. All I do is crave sugar. I can't stop eating sugar. 3 hours after I ate, I have a headache. 3 hours after I ate, I'm shaking. And really it's that like hashtag hangry feeling that kind of clues me in that this patient might be experiencing insulin resistance. And then I kind of go through their chart, their history with them. And a lot of times having family history of type 2 diabetes, having a history of gestational diabetes, these a lot of times are things that kind of set red flags up for me to say, this patient is most likely experiencing insulin resistance. So now what does that actually mean in our body? I'll describe it in my silly way, but it kind of makes sense. So let's just say you eat something that's just purely carbs, or drink something that's purely carbs. Let's say you have a soda, right? Soda is one of these terrible sugars to come into your body because it doesn't even need to be broken down. It just is almost like when you drink a straight sugar soda, you're like just mainlining it right into your arm. So pretty much you have all this sugar now pumping through your body because you drank the soda. So your body, though, wants to achieve a state of homeostasis, which is equilibrium. And so it will do everything it needs to do by sending out hormones to balance that sugar, right? So here's your sugars up high. Your pancreas says, okay, I'm going to make some insulin, because insulin's job is to bring down that blood sugar. Well, it's one of insulin's jobs.
Right.
We'll get to the other job in a second. So let's say your sugar molecules, here it comes. Let's say your sugar molecules look like this, and your insulin molecules look like this. So if you make, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, like 30 units of sugar, your body kicks out 30 units of insulin to match up like puzzle pieces. They stick together like puzzle pieces and bring down your blood sugar and bring down your blood sugar, right? In an insulin resistant person, one of these two is misshapen. You know,
Yeah.
one of them doesn't fit, right? Something
Right.
doesn't fit on the surface. Usually it's the sugar comes out all funky. So here comes your insulin and it just is not fitting. And so your blood sugar after you drank that soda remains elevated, and the body knows it. So it's like, all right, that didn't work. We need to send more. And the pancreas sends more insulin, sends more. And you can't really, nothing's connecting within your body for some reason. Our bodies are brilliant, but can't figure this out. If it's not attaching, it's not lowering your sugar, and the body continues to be signaled to make more. So before you know it, you have a ton of insulin pumping through your blood. And insulin's second job, remember we said insulin has a second job? The second job of insulin is that it's a fat storage hormone. So if you're walking around with insulin pumping through your veins, every single thing you eat is going to stick to you like glue. So that's why people that experience insulin resistance say, oh my God, you know, I can't handle carbs at all. Or whenever I eat carbs, I'm starving for hours and I just can't lose weight. And I don't even eat any fat. And then the lethal combination is the insulin with the fat. So if you're eating things that are carby, sugary, and fatty at the same time, and you're an insulin resistant person, your insulin's going to go way up and it's all ready to store fat. And then here's the fat in your meal wanting to stick right to you. So
Right.
it makes for like, yeah, very difficult weight loss, right?
I like the way you describe that. That's very easy to understand. Yeah.
I've honed it over the years.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. Yeah.
Some of it might be lies, but I'm hoping it's all true.
Right. Depending on who you talk to and what time of the year it is. Right.
Right. But let's just go with that, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So, I mean, basically, you know, in a perfect world, we would never eat sugar, and then that would be helpful. But, you know, there are other things that we can do. You know, moving your body is important, right?
Yes.
You know, like 30, even just 30 minutes, like 3 to 5 times a week, just move your body, however it is, do a dance class or go for a walk or go to the gym, whatever it is. I know smoking's a big thing with
Oh, yeah.
insulin. Like if you're smoking and you've got insulin resistance, I mean, you shouldn't smoke anyway, but that's my disclaimer. But you know, but that's actually really a big issue. And then not sleeping enough too. You know, not getting that like 7 to 9. I know that sounds too difficult for a lot of us, but 7 to 9 hours. I know I read a study that even one night of sleep deprivation can increase insulin resistance by up to like 33%, which is why there's like such a correlation between not getting enough sleep and weight loss, weight management issues. Sleep
Right.
is so important. Sometimes I have clients that the only thing we fix is their sleep, and then the weight just starts coming off. It's pretty incredible.
I know. It's
Um,
so true.
and then intermittent fasting has been shown to help with this. There are studies that will say that intermittent fasting it lowers insulin levels in almost every person that tries it. So, you know, and it's not that hard to do. Just start with like a 12-hour fast. So, you know, have your dinner at 7 p.m. and then don't eat until 7 a.m. You're sleeping most of that time, hopefully. But that'll make a big impact. And then stress is huge also for insulin because, you know, our cortisol, our stress hormone, which is necessary for, you know, that fight or flight response, but also just when we're dealing with any kind of stressful situation, whether it's good or bad, because there is such thing as good stress when we're like
Right.
really excited, right? Or running or, but when you're producing cortisol, it allows for more sugar to pump through the body, right? More glucose to circulate through the body. And it actually, at the same time, suppresses your insulin. So the issue for a lot of us is that we're constantly in a state of stress. We're constantly rushing from one thing to another, or just, you know, especially these days, just dealing with a lot of stressors all the time. So it's this constant cortisol stress hormone that's, you know, creating what I call the cascade, you know, of the stress
You
response.
call it the cascade. That's
Yeah.
actually probably the real word. I call it the domino effect. So
Yeah.
I tell my clients that like all of your hormones, think about like your cortisol from your stress, your insulin to manage your sugar, but then all the other hormones, ghrelin, the one that makes you hungry,
Yes.
reproductive hormones, TSH, what is it, FSH, and
FSA. Yeah.
luteinizing hormone, all of those hormones play a part, and they all stand up like little soldiers, right? Like dominoes. And if one gets tipped, down goes the whole thing. And I think that's
Yes.
the cascade you're talking about.
It usually starts with cortisol, right? It's usually some kind of either really stressful something in our life that sets off that domino effect or the
Yeah,
cascade. And then it affects all the other hormones. So, you know, I don't really subscribe to this stress reduction, you know, philosophy. Or stress elimination, I'll call it. Reduction, yes, but stress elimination, like I don't really think we're all going to remove stress from our lives. It's
right.
just
Just
not
relax.
going to happen.
Just chill
So,
out. Just
yeah,
relax.
just learn how to better manage it. However that, you know, works for you, you know, breathing or meditation or, you know, going for a walk or a jog or whatever. Obviously, better to use some kind of healthy strategy for stress. But anyway,
I would love to do a
um,
whole talk on that and talk about, you know, ways
yes,
to meditate and, you know, really good ways to kind of lower that stress bomb.
yes, let's
But
definitely do that.
yeah, in the future. And by the way, guys, if anybody has questions at any point in this talk, we're just chatting. We're just chilling here. So feel free to throw them out. We will answer your questions. If they're personal, that's fine. We won't say who you are. Um, anything. And if there's an idea that something you want us to talk about on future talks, also let us know about that. We'd be happy to hear. But back to the hormone thing. I think a lot of times reproductive hormones get involved here. And one of the things that I look at in my patients that have insulin resistance is, do they have PCOS?
Yes.
Because that's, a lot of people have PCOS. That's, for anybody who doesn't know, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah.
And what it actually does is the body overproduces testosterone, and there's certain things you can look for in your clients to kind of guide them towards, did you ever have a lot of cysts on an ultrasound? Do you have male pattern baldness? Are you starting to lose hair here? Are you starting to grow hair here? And then, are you just stuck ass where you can't move your weight at all? And kind of when you give irregular periods, looking at all that stuff together, a lot of times you say, well, look, go back to your doc and see if you might have insulin resistance because of PCOS. And if that's the case, I mean, there is clinical medical therapy for it. A lot of people take metformin when they find out that they have insulin resistance, because that really helps. But a lot of people don't have that kind of access because they don't necessarily have a diagnosis of PCOS or diabetes.
Right.
And so when you catch insulin resistance, you're catching kind of, I think, the like prelude to diabetes almost every time. Like,
Right.
if you allow insulin resistance to continue, it is most certainly going to become type 2 diabetes. Most of us become diabetic anyway by the time we're, old, 85, 90. But prior to that, you don't want to have to deal with, not being able to regulate your sugar.
Yeah, and the PCOS I know is really tough to get a diagnosis for. So, if you're experiencing any of the things that we talked about, don't stop. I always talk about, be an advocate for yourself. Don't stop until you get the answers. You mentioned getting your, blood sugar and insulin tests by your doctor. Do that. Ask your doctor to check your cholesterol levels. But a couple other things too, you can do a nutrient deficiency test. And I've talked about this before, but get your micronutrient levels tested. Vitamin D, magnesium, and chromium and vitamin B12 are deficiencies in any of those can actually aggravate and cause insulin resistance. So, and vitamin D deficiencies are so common these days. So, ask your doctor or work with a functional medicine a doctor. You guys do the testing, right? One of your dietitians does, yeah, micronutrient testing. So
Yeah.
important. Just know what your levels are. That can make a big difference. And then also there's a skin condition that's associated with insulin resistance. Sometimes people will develop dark skin patches, like on their neck, elbows, knees, underarms, and then skin tags, which is another PCOS commonality. Skin tags can be a sign.
Dark rings, like kind of in the
Right.
folds of your neck, like almost like it feels like you want to get it off, but it's just darkened skin. Yeah.
And sometimes these little signs and symptoms can be kind of the only thing that we see other than having trouble losing weight. But I feel like most people, especially women, a lot of women I work with, they just blame themselves that they can't lose the weight. Even though they're doing everything, they're like, well, I mean, my clients tell me every day, well, sometimes I have a treat, sometimes I have a cookie. And it's like, if you have a treat every now and then, that is not what's preventing you from losing weight. There's something bigger going on. So, if you're seeing any of these things like we're talking about, get your testing done, get your blood sugar and your insulin and your cholesterol and your nutrient levels so you can figure out the real reason or the root causes for potentially having insulin resistance.
All right, so let's say we realize that we definitely have insulin resistance. There's also a test that Vibrant Labs does called the diabetes test panel.
Yes.
I'm waiting for mine to come back actually, because it's that will show your insulin levels and your sugar levels in like a nice deep picture. But let's say the patient has realized, definitely I have insulin resistance. Now what do I do? I think my approach might be a little bit different than yours. I know you're a little bit more moderate or less aggressive in your strategies, and it's good what you said before about trying to move 3 days a week for 30 minutes. That's really great for people who aren't doing anything yet, for sure. They come to me and I'm like, you gotta do it every day if you want to, you gotta really push your blood sugar down every day
Yeah.
by
Right.
doing some kind of exercise. So I'm sure we'll vary a little bit in our strategies, but I'd like to see how it plays out.
Well, I'm with you. I do think that exercising every day is important. But, for the people that aren't exercising at all, you got to start somewhere, right?
That's right.
So, right.
I might be
Meet
scary
them
to
where
some
they
people.
are.
Yeah, I know.
But when it comes to this, it's really important. What you're eating is so important. You really have to eliminate the sugar completely, which I know is very difficult to do. So, and that sugar comes in the form of a lot of different things, right? No alcohol. I know, like people just don't want to hear that. No white breads and pastas and things that immediately, all the refined carbs, they immediately turn to sugar in your body. So you can't eat those either. So,
Right.
the low carb, moderate protein, high fat, like a keto diet can be really effective for people. I know that we've talked a little bit about the fact that you really like that approach, right? The keto approach. Yeah.
I do actually. I know I'm not really supposed to because I am still affiliated with the ADA and they don't really, it's not really recognized yet
Right.
by everybody, but you have to, you can't mistake it. Everybody's doing it and it's working. And what it does is it really does lower your blood sugar because I don't endorse being on it forever by any means, but for people who definitely have insulin resistance, a period of time without carbs at all, I think gives your pancreas like a total rest where, it doesn't have to do anything. And research is showing that you actually can correct insulin resistance by
Oh,
doing this
yeah.
for a period of time. You don't need to do it forever. But what's happened is your body's become so accustomed to using sugar as its only energy source that when you you can only hold a little bit of sugar on your body at once. And so when you've eaten something, starting like 15 minutes later, your sugar levels go down, 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 and take with it your mood, your stamina, and everything else. But when you do something like ketogenic dieting and you take out all of the carbs entirely and ramp up your fat, your body starts to remember, I used to be able to use fat for energy. So in an insulin resistant person, the reason why we're talking about like that muffin top is because a lot of times in this central region, people are unable to access those fat stores where we were born inherently with the ability to burn our own fat. Right? If you see kids, they run around all day, don't ask for a meal, they don't care,
Right.
and how
Yes.
it's because
Mine do that.
right. And then they're like, a lot of times they're just like shredded. And I think a lot of times it's because their body still knows how to access their fat stores for energy. We have grown up in a society, or I can't speak for everybody else's age, but I think me and you, Kate, grew up in a really fat phobic society.
Yes.
And so starting in like the 1950s, people stopped eating so much dietary fat and really increased their grain intake and their carbohydrate intake. And all that's left us with is 4 times more obesity, 4 times more diabetes, 4 times more cholesterol and heart issues. So I know I'm getting a little bit off track, but
no, it's good though. I just want to throw in, by the way, all of that, the non-fat, low fat that we were raised with that got to be so popular and important. The reason why that stuff still tastes good is because it's loaded with sugar. So the non-fat, low fat is bad news.
That's right.
If you're going to have something with fat, just have something with real fat. Right?
That's right. Because the low fat stuff has a ton of sugar and the low sugar stuff has a ton of fat. They got to make it tasty or nobody's going to buy it.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do like that approach. I like a ketogenic approach. A lot of times with clients who I think are candidates, if their cholesterol is not like intensely crazy and they really have this weight to lose and it's going to, taking the carbs out 100% for a period of time is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I don't advise doing it on just, some of the sketchy advice that's out there. That's why I like to kind of do it with my clients in such a way that they're logging their foods, that they're eating more healthy fats than just like garbage saturated fats.
Right.
You'll see like people eating like Wendy's cheeseburgers with no bun on them. And
yeah, it's not the excuse to eat, bacon and cheeseburgers every day and cheese and all that. Right. It's really focusing on, like you said, focusing on the healthy fats. And I love what you said about doing it for a period of time, because I think people get concerned when they talk about doing some kind of a keto diet or stuff that's, you know, it's extreme for a lot of people. But just try it for a while and see, number one, if you like it, and number two, if it works for you. And yeah, it's probably not a long-term sustainable approach, but it can, like you're saying, it can kind of remind your body of the right way to operate and the right way to handle sugar. And then, you know, then you can help them come up with a more sustainable strategy when they start introducing carbs back in. I do a lot of sugar detoxes with my clients because sugar's so hard to remove.
Right.
But I do the same thing. I tell them just remove it for a short period of time and let's see how you feel and let's see how you do and let's find replacements for all the things that you're missing. And what tends to happen is it works. Just like the keto diet, it works. And then people are like, oh, this is working. And then they're motivated to try it for longer or find better ways to make it sustainable. And you'll be surprised, you know, I'm sure you see it all the time. It works for people and then they really love the lifestyle. They love how they're feeling and they don't ever want to go back to how they used to feel.
I do hear that a lot. I
Yeah.
do. I have some super lean people with no medical conditions whatsoever that do keto simply because of the mental acuity it brings.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it's like when you take it out or when you do a sugar detox, like Kate's talking about, or when you do keto, you'll notice that the beginning of it, you feel really like all of the energy's been drained out of you. And you could feel the last bits of carbs leaving your body for like 3 or 4 days. And it doesn't feel nice. But after that, your body starts saying, I don't have the carb source that I used to have, but now I have all this fat. What do I do with it? And it makes those enzymes that break down fat. And then here, now you're raging with fat burning enzymes. You have no choice but to burn your body fat.
Yeah.
So, you know, after you get through that like initial first Helga few days, you start to feel really awesome because using fat for energy is a very clean energy source as opposed to carbs, because carbs can run out and that's why you need more. Fat can't run out. I don't care how skinny you are. You've got enough fat on your body to make it, you know, for so long if your body knows how to access it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, I tell people when they're resistant to something like this, because it seems too extreme, like just like think of it as an experiment. Just try it, see how it goes. I think with keto, you have to give it a couple of weeks at least to get into that, you know, ketosis where your body's actually using your fat for energy, but just try it as an experiment. We're not telling you to do it for the rest of your life. We're not telling you to do it for 6 months. Just try it and see how you feel. And a lot of times that feeling, like I mentioned, when you're off the sugar and your body's operating optimally, you feel so great. And then you want to keep going. And if it doesn't feel great for you, you tried it. And, you know, Lori and her team and we can help you come up with a different strategy that works for you. But just try it and see how you feel. Yeah. And that's why we're here, right? To like help guide people and then coach them and cheer them on and talk to them when it's tough and help them get through it. I think especially with something like this, it makes a huge difference to have somebody working alongside you to keep you going. Yeah,
definitely. And especially because these higher fat diets can get like, if you're not really paying close attention to what's going in your mouth, you could be getting hundreds of calories per bite. So that's why I really think that logging is the best way to do it. There's a couple of sites you can use to log your food that will set up your macros and you could see how you're going to get to your fat. But things that my clients say, the things that they experience when they're eating this way is I bound out of bed in the morning. I hear that all the time. I jump out of bed and I'm ready to go. And I never felt that way. Also, people say, I have no cravings at all. I almost don't care if I don't eat at all. And these are people who prior came in like, I can't stop eating. And they're just like, bro, I wake up and then it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock before you know it, I haven't eaten anything.
And they're really like, it changes the way that you eat. Like you're eating just because you need some fuel, and then you're making better choices because you're not in that hunger panic stage or phase. And it can really change everything.
And the weight loss can be dramatic.
Yeah,
like day to day dramatic. A couple of things you need to do to safeguard yourself, like Kate mentioned before, magnesium, for instance. is one of the nutrients that when you're doing super, super low carb like that, that you're not going to get much of because it's usually found in our baked products. It's fortified into foods.
Right.
So when you cut out carbs, most people tend to become extremely deficient in magnesium. So I always recommend supplementing with magnesium, you know, a good amount, 500 a night if possible. They make it in powder forms where you can drink it and it relaxes you to sleep. The one product I love the most is a company called Jigsaw Health. They have a magnesium product called Mag Now, and it's this delicious like raspberry lemonade soda that you just sip about an inch of it before you go to bed, and it just calms your muscles down and reinfuses your magnesium. Otherwise, you're going to start to experience symptoms like twitching eye. So I do keto personally myself. I do it for like 3 months out of the year, every year. I love it. When I start to feel like I'm craving carbs too much or I'm too like ravenous, I switch over to keto for a few months just for the reset. And then I come back feeling great. But when I first started doing it, I wanted to put myself on it before I put clients on it. And I failed to do the magnesium. And I would be sitting at my desk and my eye just would twitch. And I'm like, okay, don't worry, keto's fine. You know? So,
oh my gosh,
that's when I realized like we all need to be supplementing with magnesium, or else you're gonna feel crampy and twitchy and stuff.
Yeah, like the restless legs at night when you're, you know, trying to go to, or even sleep trouble. Magnesium deficiency will cause that too. But the twitching.
The twitching. So somebody asked here, is there a book that we recommend? Well, I definitely want to recommend your book. So Kate's written a book, and then there's another book that I like too. Kate, tell us about your book.
Well, my book, my book is focused on, you know, finding the real reasons or the root causes for weight loss resistance or other health issues. I don't really talk about intermittent fasting or keto or, you know, insulin resistance in particular in the book, but it's a very general approach to finding the real reasons, root causes. So it's called Revolutionary Weight Loss. And the tag is the predictable plan to lose it for good this time. I actually, on my website, Integrative Wellness Advisors, you can get the ebook for free. You can download it for free there. But it's that the real book, if you like a real book, is available on Amazon.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so proud.
Thanks.
And then, you know, I like to recommend a book too for ketogenic specific eating. It's called, I make almost all my clients that do keto with me read it before we get going because there's just so much to understand. It answers all your questions about, is this good for me to eat all this fat? What other benefits are there of eating ketogenic, like anti-cancer, anti-aging and Alzheimer's? Like it tells you everything, and you kind of read it and you're like, okay, I do feel okay with this. This is not just a trend. It's not just a stupid trend. Anyway, the book is called Fat for Fuel by Dr. Mercola.
Oh, he's great.
He's a little radical. Yeah, he's great. He's a little bit radical. Like he's going to tell you got to get your blood sugar tested every day, and you need to get your iron levels checked before you start. But he's a little rigorous. You can use those strips that you get at CVS and just pee on them and see if you're in ketosis or not. But that's one of my favorite Bibles for how to eat ketogenically. Or
I haven't read that
one. With us, you know?
Right. Yes.
Again, I mean, I offer a free service. Kate has amazing consultations to help you to figure out what's wrong.
Yeah.
I just got a mention here. It's a good book. I read it before you put me on keto. Yes.
Oh, nice.
And the same client made a comment before that was interesting. He said that even keto sugars are an issue for him. So when you're doing these really low carb diets, a lot of people like to promote that like Lakanto monk fruit, which I love. I do. And I do promote that, you know, as one of my favorite really low glycemic sugars. Stevia and others. And I think the reason why he's saying that he's impacted by those sugars, even though they have no glycemic effect, right? They don't cause our sugar to go up at all because there's no sugar in them. What they do is your body's so brilliant that a lot of times for people that are really sensitive to sugar, when you taste the sugar, like drinking a soda or eating a cupcake or whatever, even if it's completely sugar-free, your body tastes that sweetness and it starts that trigger of soldiers, right? And it's that sweetness triggers, okay, somebody tell the pancreas a lot of sugar's coming and prepare. by making a lot of insulin. And
Wow.
yeah, and it's crazy because you think you're doing all right. So it's not like you should really be overdoing those sugars either because of the taste. And then this client says sugar alcohols always give me GI issues. And that's
Yeah.
certain sugar alcohols give more GI issues than others, I should say. Maltitol, mannitol, the ones that were in like the older brands of sugar-free ice cream and sugar-free candies, most people can't even digest it all. You get like super gassy and bloated and just feel gross. But there are a couple, the sugar alcohols that they're using now are like erythritol, xylitol. These seem to be a lot gentler on people's GI, although I do still hear a few people can't do them either, but they don't have that like crazy diarrhea effect.
Don't do the pink or the blue. Don't do any of the fake sugars
or the yellow.
Yeah, none of that. That's even worse than real sugar, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, it's a good opportunity to just remove, I know it's hard, but remove sweet from your life, just for, again, experiment, see what it feels like. What I usually hear from clients after they've done something like that is that once they start reintroducing anything sweet, they're like, wow, I can't believe I used to eat this. It's so sweet, you know, like a cupcake or a cookie or something. And they just don't even want it anymore, which, how amazing to live a life where you don't want to have a cupcake.
We're
I haven't quite made it there yet.
I know.
Now my puppy and my cat are going to start yelling at each other and running around in my house.
That's okay. We're like a zoo in here today.
Oh my God.
We're like a zoo. I'm going to get this guy too. See my guy? Anybody who didn't see my guy, this is my guy.
He's so fluffy.
Yeah,
I have a new puppy. Oh boy. I'm going to let her out.
Okay. Do you have insulin resistance? I don't think you do. I think you eat very clean. Mwah. So yeah, I think it's really a lot of times the cause of everyone's distress. Everyone says, I can't lose any weight. I always want to look at insulin resistance as a cause and ways to kind of reset the metabolism around it.